Nice rainy day out, and so it seems like a good time to get back into the groove of things this week. We're back on my alts plot, Ternup. Yes, I have a thing for vegetable names, at least on Exile side. I also have a alt named Celery. Anyway, as you can see, if you've been following along, I really haven't done a single thing to this. I've been strictly keeping it where I don't touch it until I'm streaming. So whatever you see me working on, that's all fresh and new and strictly for the stream. Last week we wrapped up the week's worth of effort by tacking on the roof and sorting out the inner walls, I think it was. There's still some things that I need to iron out, but I think it turned out pretty good overall. I've had a few visitors come and say they're not too happy with how the roof looks on the inside, but for me personally, I don't mind it too much. It's probably a lot to do with just the choice of decor pieces I decided to use. I used the Exile pillars for the roof, so you know it would probably have a different feel if I'd chosen just the flat roofing instead of using the pillars. But I don't mind it. It gives a little extra character, I think, to the overall house. Just something a little different. I could have went with 2x4s. I could have went with staircase landings, actual walls, floors. You know, you name it. Just about any of those pieces would have worked fine. But for mine, I think this goes. Again, it gives a little bit of it makes the choice of the wall kind of pop against everything else. The only thing that right now is standing out a little bit out of place is the staircase here, which I may end up changing it. I could go ahead and go with the deck stairs to kind of better match those kind of touches. I don't know. For now, I'm leaving it be because it's just kind of allowing me to quickly get up inside here. Just like I've had a few people comment about the floatiness of the house. The original concept was to put it up on stilts and probably have some kind of body of water below. But I may end up foregoing that. I may just change it and have it either up on some kind of, you know, if I get my hands on a cheap umbrella tree, I might put it upside down underneath and have it like a little hill here. I could just put some large stones, some kind of large stonework here and have it propped up that way. Because I'm thinking I'm not really going to bother with the hatch house at this point. I really don't have any kind of ideas of what I might want to put down there that would kind of go with this particular theme. So it's looking more and more, we'll probably just cover this up so that there's no access. But for the time being, I'm wanting to concentrate on the interior of the home, and we'll see what kind of decor count I have left after I've pretty much worked all of that up. In order to know what kind of, you know, how fancy I'm going to get. I may just end up going with stilts, cover that with a rock and call it good. You know what I mean? So it's just going to be a question of where we are at with the core count and everything. And currently we're sitting at just over 300. So we're still kind of in a good place. There's a lot of details though that I want to add in. Again, as I said, I'm hoping to try and do as much custom building on the furniture even as I possibly can get away with. That's going to be tricky though, especially because we're dealing with, you know, true walls. It's not like I can put an item here and then push it into the wall to hide a good portion of it and make it look good here. It'll look good here, but it'll also be sticking out on this side. So that's, you know, when it comes to custom built homes, that's a kind of a handicap, I guess. as opposed to pre-built homes, where the pre-built homes, when you're inside the interior and you put something in the wall, you're confident that that won't show through anywhere. You know, usually not going to stick out the outside of the exterior walls of your home and that kind of thing. But in a custom built home, that's a whole nother ball game. So you have to really think about what you're going to do. So for instance, if I want to put in something where I need to sink it down into the floor, again, that's another issue. If I leave this floor flat like it is, there's going to be lots of things sticking out from the bottom. Now, one way to bypass that is to actually put some kind of a foundation here. Either build it up with walls and make it look like a cement foundation kind of thing. Use bricks to make it look like a brick foundation with the wood on top. Just add some stones, like it's built on some kind of a rocky area. That kind of thing. If I do it that way, then whatever I sink down into the floor inside won't show up here because it'll be all covered. So that's things to consider. But I'm going to try my best to kind of steer clear of those kind of items, that kind of custom building. So we'll see how that goes. Now, I did say that I really wasn't too happy with this door. I'm still not quite sure how I'm going to address that, so I'm going to leave it as is for now. I definitely will have to rethink how to do the framework though, because of how I've got the roof built, this kind of intrudes on it a little bit, so it doesn't make quite sense to have the glass all the way to the top here and then have it pushing through that, unless I just imagine that there's some kind of a gap that's been cut into that to accommodate. Which I could do, and I may end up doing just because I get lazy about it, but I still, in the back of my mind, have plans to redo the door, but for now we're going to leave it as is. I think today we're just going to kind of look around at let me redo the reload UI, because I've been out visiting other homes and it was messing on my main, so usually that kind of gets a little borky. Anyway, this is sticking, so I need to push it back out a little bit. Did some readjustment last week, I think, moving things around on the outside, and neglected to double check on the interior to make sure nothing was poking through. And now that I'm inside, I'm seeing those little bits, so just kind of correcting small adjustments. Yeah, see, got this here, don't want that poking in. And that's what I mean by having the thin walls, and custom built homes being a little trickier as far as being able to hide things. You can't really sink it in like you would another typical home. And that's definitely quite a bit. Okay, I think I got all of it. All right. So here we're talking kitchen stuff. So that could mean countertop, maybe a cooking island, gonna have some kind of a little table, like a little dinette set. Since it is just for one person, it doesn't necessarily have to have like a full like 6-chair dining table or anything like that, and nothing super fancy as far as like a cabinet with like tons of dishes and stuff, because it's just going to be the one person. Now I might go ahead and put a two-person table in, just in the off chance that they have a passerby come through and want a cup of coffee or something like that. But I guess we'll start with the cabinet countertops and things like that. So we have this kitchen floor in, and it's okay. It's not, I didn't want to go with the Oran floors because I suspected I might want to use that for some of like, specifically in the bathroom area for some of the cabinetry in there. But I also might want to use bits of it in here, and I want to do, with this being a little bit more kind of a out there pattern, I figured this would be better suited for the floor, and then use the other stuff as countertops and surfaces for like maybe the refrigerator or microwave or whatever I decide to put in. Now I noticed that these aren't lined up the same, so I'm going to correct that while we're here. That's at 751. If this, we'll just push it over ourselves. Yeah, that looks a little better. Okay, now again, it'll probably become more prominent in the bathroom area because of like the shower stall stuff. Including tiles in there on the walls, and if I do that, that means these will get thickened up. But first we're going to look at countertops. Now one of my favorite pieces to use for countertops is like the travel posters, because it looks nice and clean and just kind of goes okay. But I'm also thinking about different appliances that I might want to use, like a microwave or, you know, I'm not quite sure. I don't want this to be like super rustic. It doesn't have to be like all no electricity kind of thing. You know, I don't mind a little bit of technology in this home. It's not a specific goal of mine. Just because they're secluded doesn't mean they have no access to nifty stuff. So I'm thinking about, you know, what pieces I might use for those, and if that's going to clash with, you know, because whatever I use for the countertop, I don't want to use that for everything else, because then everything will just kind of blend in with everything else. Just seeing, you know, I could use the staircase landings as the cabinetry. Trying to think of what else. Any of the floors would work. Another reason why I like the posters is they're a rectangle, and most of the floors and other flat areas is usually squares. And the rectangle, I don't know, it just lends itself better to like a countertop kind of feel, and that's usually why I used it with the snack bar at my miniature golf course, and it looked really nice and sleek and fit really good there, and I think it'll be all right here too. So I don't think I have any travel posters on her. I'm not even sure if she had access to any, but since I'm on my main, I should have. And we'll get the cheapest one, of course. If you have, you know, they look different on the one side, but that's not the side I'm looking at. I'm wanting just dark grayish metal kind of feel. And when it's something like that, if you have a choice between paying 25 silver and 10 silver, obviously go for the cheap. Don't go for the expensive one when you don't have to. So I'm just going to slap a few of these down here. And again, when you're planning something like this, you know, don't be afraid to change it up if you decide. It's not like it has to be exact like this. I'm thinking probably a dining table here, And maybe this would be something else. I'm not sure, but I'm figuring the countertop area would be here. And I'm going to start in the middle. And the main thing I'm going to be checking right for this for the start is one, the height of the countertop and the width of it. So I'm going to make sure this is squared up first. And then I'm looking at the height here, and that seems like a good height. So we will probably be somewhere around that. I don't want it to go above the line of the window. So what I'll do is I'll probably start out at just below or just at the edge of the framework here. What I'll do is I'll use my character, because my alt is an Orin, and I'm building this for her, so I'm building it to Orin size. It's not going to be where a Mordish will come in here and everything will be pretty rinky-dinky to them. They'll still be able to walk around and everything, but it's going to feel pretty compact and uncomfortable. Probably they wouldn't want to lean on those bits. That probably is going to work best to have that just straight off at just under the bit there. So what I'm going to do is now I'm just centering it up. That way whatever I build will be equal on both sides. For something like this, I tend to keep it uniform. And then I'll just start copying, pasting, and just extending it out however far I think it needs to go. Maybe it extends all the way to the end on both sides. Now, the one thing I need to watch, right here, I have the thickness of this pillar to hide any excess that might be sticking out. As I reach the wall, I'll have to double check and make sure that that's not sticking out of the wall. If it is, then I'll have to probably resize, because I like the depth here. This feels a good width here. You don't want to make it any bigger, but if I have to push it in, it will become bigger, so that's something to consider. Again, I'm just eyeballing as far as position and all that. I'm not checking measurements or anything. It'll probably come in where it's not even here. First, I'm going to check that outer wall just to see if it's poking out. It does seem to be showing up here, so I'm going to have to tuck that in a bit. And the best way to do that is just I'll just put it at 0.9. That's, and you'll see I'm just barely pushing it in. It's wider. I don't quite like that, so I'm going to change it up even further. 0.8. See how that looks. What I'm doing is I'm trying to match the width, but still leave it tucked in. That looks better for me. Now, someone else might want a wider countertop. The only thing this means is with it smaller, I'll probably need to use more of these pieces in order to extend it as far as I want. But for me, that's okay. just lay out a few more pieces. Now, I'm not really planning for like a sink space. I will do that here shortly, because I always picture the sink being like right in front of the window. That way, as you're washing dishes, you can be looking out. But right now, I'm just kind of laying out the general idea of what countertop space I want. As we get into it and start thinking about, okay, where do we want the sink? The sink, of course, you want it to be inset into the countertop. So I will have to make adjustments for that as we go. And like take into consideration, okay, what am I going to use as water? Because again, I mentioned also that I kind of wanted to keep to not just strictly getting using items that I can get off of the vendor, but maybe extending to craftables from an architect, because those again I would consider fairly easy to obtain. You just either need to be able to make it yourself or find an architect that's willing to build it for you. So then I'll have that pool as well to draw from as far as when I'm looking into what items I might could use for a water feature, like for the bathroom tub or the sink or the kitchen sink. If I'm wanting to make, I don't know, an aquarium of some sort, what kind of stuff can I get a hold of? Because again, I'm kind of aiming to show beginner builders that you don't have to have the Uber bank account, you don't have to have the Uber items in order to make something that looks nice. And that's personal, unique, special to you. It still has a personality of its own, I'm just continuing with this extending the countertop here. With the table idea, I'm thinking like a two-seater probably, with the table this way and the seats this way, but it could be maybe they're side by side, staring out the window as well. We'll see. I gotta stay focused. Concentrate on one thing at a time, otherwise, but I'm constantly in my head, I'm going over, well, I could use this for that, or this for that, or do I want to have this? I know I'm gonna probably want a refrigerator and some shelving for like pantry items or whatever, if I've got all this countertop space, am I gonna have canisters for hi Zinbaru. That's a possibility that they're going to put, it's probably guaranteed that they're going to put a good amount of housing things into the cash shop or whatever it's going to be. But I don't think there should be worry or concern that they're going to put everything behind it. For me, there's already a lot of items I don't have access to, either because they're PVP drops only and they're vinyl pickups. So the only way I could ever get a hold of them is if I go to PVP and get it myself. And since I don't PVP, that will never come about. So as it is, even now, there's a few items that I just don't have access to, or I very rarely see. Simply because I either haven't had the luck of it, or like I said, they drop in some form or fashion that I just don't get into. So having a cash shop where certain items might be, I guess, what they would call gated behind a purchase, a real money purchase. That doesn't really bother me too much. There's always going to be things that you like, that you want, that you can't get to, or that you choose not to either put in the time, the money, the effort, whatever. For me, I find part of the challenge of housing, at least for me, in working under those disadvantages, limits, restrictions, however you want to call them. That's why, like I said, I'm building this home primarily using just housing vendor stuff and architecture made stuff. Because, while there are lots of nifty items that you can get fairly easy, like through open world challenges, just random drops, things that drop from dungeons and stuff, not everybody does it or has the time to or has the skill for. And I want them to feel like, I don't want them to feel like, well, they can't do anything because they can't get a hold of that one particular item everybody uses in their plots for this particular effect. I want to try and show that you can get similar effects that are just as good as, sometimes better than, those things using easier to grab stuff. I'm looking for posters again. I'm going to go ahead and create a bunch of them because I know I'm going to need some for the front side. But yeah, I'm sure it's a concern for a lot of people what exactly the cash shop is going to entail. How they've already said, Carbine's already mentioned a few times, though they were specifically, I think, addressing someone's issues about costume pieces and stuff, but I'm confident it applies to any kind of cosmetic kind of thing, and housing is more or less a cosmetic kind of thing all on its own, that they weren't going to strictly only release future stuff in the cash shop, that there would be stuff that you would be able to still get in open world or off the vendors and things like that. So while it is a big concern for a lot of people, and it may be like, say, we've been begging for item count upgrades to allow for either more storage or more placement limits to be raised. That very well could be something that they specifically tie to the cash shop, and either you will be willing to pay for it or you will be willing to work within the limits, that you already have. As it is, the way I understand it, freemium players will already be restricted pretty good, because they're going to be basically whatever we have right now, they're going to have half of that. And signature players will have the current limits that we've got. And it went okay. We managed to down X89 after a few wipes. I won't go into details, but it wasn't a really good night, and we had a lot of people disconnecting, and a few people dealing with in real life things. One's got a young baby, so they were having to deal with that, and then another one kept getting called away by their mom, and it just seemed like a snowball effect, and one little thing kind of turned into two little things, and by the time you got to it, it was like just a whole big mess. And of course we were raiding with very minimum number of people. I think we had max 16 at one point, but I think we ended with 14 or so. So we got him down, but it was a test of our patience last night. Wasn't one of our best examples of a guild raid, but it was still fun. Well, all I can say is this particular box, X89, we kind of technically had on farm. We've gone through him quite a few times now. Everybody more or less knows the the routine. But last night was just one of those nights. I mean, even seasoned raiders have those off nights. Last night for us, being casual raiders, it just felt even more so. But it was just the things just didn't click very good, and we had a lot of stupid mistakes going on, and people were just kind of getting fussy, but we managed eventually. Um, and of course, we didn't have enough people for the second main boss of that particular floor. I think you have to have a minimum of 16, and then it has to be near flawless execution before it actually is successful. So that probably wouldn't have happened even if we had had 16, because we were just having a bad time of it. Yeah, the roster problems. Uh, that's always an ongoing thing with any guild, even if they're casual or hardcore. You have people that will come in, will raid for a significant amount of time, and then for whatever reason they get burnt out, and then they decide, well, I'm going to take a break. So then as they take a break, then that means you have to have new people coming in to replace them. A lot of the really hardcore raiding guilds, though, I think they have a good buffer of people that are waiting in line. They have those, maybe they rotate them in and out. Ours is a little different because we're a casual guild. We keep it our guild's fairly small, specifically meant to keep the family kind of attitude around, so that people don't feel too pressured when it comes to raiding and things. It's not a requirement that we raid every day, every week, multiple times. We only raid once a week, and for like 3 hours, I think, is our big thing. But for hours, when we lose one, it's a little bit more significant because, like, at the moment, our guild recruitment has been on halt for a while now, so we really don't have a lot of new people coming in. I think in the last several months we've maybe had 2 new people introduced, and that was primarily because we had 1 or 2 kind of say, hey, I need a break, got a little burnt out, and the guild leader said, okay, as we would have them, we're going to bring in a few others. But I don't know if that's going to change when the transition happens, if he's going to decide to open it up a little better, or if we're going to leave it pretty tight-knit, just to make sure we keep the family atmosphere. There's also a lot of fears, and I know there was a guild discussion in the forums not too long ago about people being concerned about the freemium players not being dedicated enough, I guess is the way to phrase it. That maybe their unwillingness to pay a sub means that they're not going to really put in 110%. And there's been questions about whether or not guilds are going to be stricter on who they let into their guild. I don't know if there's a way that they could verify if someone is a subscription player or not, but I presume if there will be a way to do that a lot of them will be checking, and if you're not a sub player, then you may be on your own for a while. I know that there have been some guilds that have talked that they will definitely be allowing freemium players in. They are, casual, and they want everybody that is willing to go in. But I think a lot of the more progressive oriented are going to be a little bit more stringent on their terms. And definitely those that have guild banks, that they don't want people just coming in robbing them blind, because there is always that kind of concern too. Well, I think a lot of them have worry that this free-to-play is going to be bringing in a greater percentage of trollish type players, that they're just there to get a leg up. I mean, I've been in guilds before, even in a subscription environment, where they come into a progression guild. They say, I'm, all for it. I'm all for it. All for the team. They go through the rating. They get all geared up, and then they go, okay, see ya, and they move on to something else because they got what they wanted out of you. And I think a lot of people fear that with the free-to-play, that will become even more prevalent. I mean, it's not to say that it isn't there already. There are some people that probably do that now. They'll get into a casual guild, get the gear that they want, and then they'll jump to an actual progressive guild, because the progressive guilds are looking for those that are already geared, already have a lot of stuff under their belt, that kind of thing. And I've seen that happen, like I said, in a subscription environment. So I think the worry is that there will be even more of that with free-to-play coming in. That folks, it's kind of like the trouble with anonymity on the web. When you don't have to take credit for whatever you say to someone else because they don't know who you are, then you're more likely to be snarky with them. And same way it goes with, say, a raider. They don't feel the loyalty to a particular group because they know that they could, turn right around and get into somebody else's group. That kind of thing. So I don't know. It's just some issues that people are going to have to work out. And we'll see how it goes, whether it's going to be smooth or not. For me, I feel like it should be more like judge a person on their actions rather than on assumptions of how they might behave, just based on what they are willing to pay or not pay. I've been in other games where I too am a freemium player, but I am just as bent on, doing well as I would if I was paying for the game. So I don't know. I think it's more of a case-by-case basis on that thing. But like I said, a lot of people already have a preconception of what premium means, and as opposed to subscription. So it's people don't want the community divided. I mean, you already have the division of factions, and then you have the division of realms. Then you got the division of PvPers and PvEers. Now we're going to have the division of freemium and premium. So, it's just another way of categorizing people and making assumptions and putting them labels on them, even though it might not apply to all of them. They're quick to generalize. So, yeah, that's basically, you're going to have bad apples in both sides, in both barrels. So, we'll just have to see. Like I said, I don't know what our guild leader has in mind yet. I think he's still thinking it over, and he may wait to see how the transition goes. I think most will just be happy that there will be more people queuing and things like that. Whoops, I sent that to the crate. Silly me. I know, like, as far as what Zimbaru mentioned was the cash shop fears. I know my guild leader and a lot of my guildmates are collectors, and they're extremely not happy about the introduction of a cash shop. Specifically because since they're collectors and a lot of them are completionists, they want it all. That forces them to pay extra monies beyond their subscription if that's how they're going. So we'll just have to see how it works out. Wow, this is just like all kinds of not lined up at all. Horrible. That's what happens when you're eyeballing, folks. Eyeball it and it just kind of goes. Yeah, the Carbine's already said that they don't want it. They're not going to be selling gear or things like that. That they're keeping it supposedly strictly cosmetic and like convenience kind of things. Like I would assume that would include like probably uh, heck, I don't know. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they include things like increase decor limit for housing, having that cost extra if you want a 3,000 limit or something. Um, and there will be people willing to do that because they just want that extra bit. For me, I would probably opt to just work within the limits that I have now and wait for the day that they decide, okay, we'll just give you 3,000 for everybody, and then I'll be like, yay. But uh, I agree. I think it's just, uh, as a general rule, people just kind of freak out at change. And it's worse when people start throwing around, well, what if, and what if, and what if, and it just kind of brings a lot of fears to the head, and those fears just feed other people's fears and makes it even worse. And then people get, snarky with each other because they're so passionate about one way or the other that they start, nitpicking at each other. And really, for me, the way I've approached it is I've just kind of stayed out of most of the conversations. Well, that's just not one to copy, is it? And I'm just kind of riding it out. I know right now I'm uh, a subscriber, and once the transition happens, I will be happy to turn into a signature player because I don't have any plans of canceling my subscription. So the way I understand it, it'll automatically roll over to a subscribing signature player, how they call it. If by chance I hadn't heard of WildStar up until this point, I would probably just wait until it went free to play and then joined in then. I mean, who doesn't want to play a game for free if they don't have to pay? The only reason I'm willing to is because I do want to keep what I have, which specifically in regards to housing limits. I don't want to have to be reduced. Now, I'm not saying that they will say you already have 2,000 items on your home and then you go freemium and that one is limited to 1,000. I don't know how that's going to work. It probably will be where if you leave it be and it's still out, they won't like just take away 1,000 pieces. It'll probably be kind of like when they changed the items from like the Elden uh, hologram thingy, where we were able to get multiples in the beginning. We just keep spitting them out and putting them in. People had like tons of those things all over the place. Then they decided to make the item unique so that if you put one down into your crate and placed it, you can only place one. So those that still have them out on their plot, they're able to leave them. But if they ever put them back into the crate, they won't be able to put them back out. And that's how I kind of think that will work for. I'm not, don't quote me. I'm no Carbine person or anything, so that might not be the way that they do it. But I figure that's probably the easiest. If you already have your 2,000 items in your plot, and then you go freemium and you're theoretically reduced to the amount that you're allowed, whatever you have out will stay, but if you decide to create it all and start again, you'll be restricted to the half amount. Something like that. Yeah, it's just a matter of waiting. Wait to see and find out and deal with it when it's time to cross that bridge. For now, all we can do is speculate, guess, and a lot of that speculation and guessing just usually leads to more concerns, more questions than answers. And according to some of the tweets that I've been seeing with the E3 stuff going on and folks waiting for the embargo to be lifted so that all of the magazines and everything can start releasing whatever interview information they got, I imagine within the next week or two, 3 years. Within the month, we should start hearing some new information as far as what we can expect in the loyalty program, that kind of thing. I mean, they've already said that that stuff is coming. They just haven't said when. But I suspect once that big information embargo is lifted, then some of that will start trickling out, and hopefully will clear a lot of matters up. There's still a chance that it will just bring up more questions, but hopefully not. Hopefully it'll start clearing the smoke. Okay, so kind of got this laid out sort of. It's not really lined up exact, which is probably going to irk me more than it will irk you, but let's see if I can straighten this up a little bit. I'm just going to check placement here and see. Got it kind of close. Pretty close. The measurement I'm looking at is here to make sure it's positioned this way, about the same, so that hopefully the lines match up better. Looks like I got most of them pretty close, but there's a few that are a little off. And now what I'll do is I'll go back out and just take a look to see if there's some bits that are poking through that shouldn't be, and yeah, here. So I'll have to adjust that a bit. The only thing that might bring in is like some issues of flashing. This is overlapping, and again, I'd probably have to fix that by changing either the size or the offset a little bit. Probably didn't have to bring it in this far, but I'm just gonna go ahead and like that. Okay, so there's a rudimentary countertops. Wow. Yeah, Zimbabwe, there's a lot of, I've been here since beta, and I can attest to the leaps and bounds they've made as far as streamlining a lot of the questing zones, specifically like the starter area, the arc ship part, the overall, a lot of the quality of life things. I really didn't get into the dungeons and stuff in the beginning. That came much later, so I didn't really notice the big changes there, but I've heard a lot of people talk about them. and how it's all been in a positive direction. I think their biggest fuss points right now is, like you said, optimization. Um, and of course, we have our PvP community that's still pretty feeling like the stepchild of the family right now. And there's bound to be other things, class balancing and things but those for me, especially like the class balancing, that will be a continual all the time kind of thing. Because when you change one thing, that's going to knock other things out of sync. So it's just a constant yo-yo seesaw kind of effect. Because even WoW, as many years as it's been out, every time they do some kind of an update and change a little thing, then it just kind of knocks. And so one period of time, maybe the hunters are on top, and then the next period of time it's the paladins, and it's constant. Who's the lowbie this week, kind of thing. And I think that will be the same for WildStar, no matter what they do as far as trying to keep the balance. The idea, though, is that they're willing to keep continually tweaking it, and I don't see any stopping on that. The PvP issues, I have no clue about that stuff, so I couldn't really comment on that. Optimization, from my little perspective, I've seen a lot of improvements. I don't hardly have lag issues like I used to in the very beginning. And I have an AMD thingamabob, whatever it is. And while I know a lot of fellow AMD users continue to have really major issues as far as playability goes, I guess I've been one of the lucky ones that I've managed to get into most aspects. I mean, like I said, I raid and everything, and haven't had any real serious problems. I do have most of my settings on low or medium, though, so that may be it. A lot of people, if they're going to play a game like this, they want it high quality, everything, and if they can't get that, then that's just the end of their world for that. For me, it's not so much. But yeah, from my perspective, with the changes that they've made and the changes they say that they have planned, and just the way the things have been going, I only see it getting better. I don't see us really backtracking. Even with the free-to-play coming, for me, it's not a end of the world kind of concept or process. The only way that would be an end of the thing for me is if they permanently just gated everything, every possible thing behind the cash shop. But even then, I would probably say, well, I'll just live without that stuff and just work with what I have, and that would be my kind of thing. But I just don't see them going backwards. I just see them improving. So I guess I'm being an optimist when I say that, and a lot of people just don't feel that, because a lot of people take a lot of the decisions that Carbine has made in the past, or how they've handled certain issues in the past, personally. And I don't think you can do it like that. It's not like they're directly attacking you when they say, well, we're going to skip this or we're going to change this up. They're just doing what they feel is best in their own design point of view, their own business team kind of view. I mean, it's not just Carbine that's handling the ropes here, it's NCSoft as well, from what I understand. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that maybe the developers don't agree with, but they have no choice but to go with it, kind of thing. And in light of that, I think they've done a good job in trying to incorporate as much as our feedback as possible, as quickly as possible. There are some things I'm sure that are easier to tackle than others. It's just, I guess I'm willing to give a leap of faith as far as, I'm willing to pay my subscription in the leap of faith that the game will continue to improve It may not be to the pace I want. It may be, not fast enough or big enough steps for a lot of people or for myself. But as long as there is still a progression going forward that's positive, um, I'm willing to stick it out and see where it goes. Uh, if the game just upended completely and they decided to close up shop, yeah, I'd be disappointed, but it's not the end of the world for me. And it's not that I don't love the game. I love playing. I'm here every day and doing all kinds of goofy stuff, but you just gotta go with the flow. I don't want to. I'm invested in the game, but I don't want to get emotional about it because there's no good that comes of it. I can sit here and cry and have a little tantrum because maybe my character doesn't get this or that, or the spell doesn't work, or the quest is bugged or whatever. But it's the feedback. If you find something that's wrong, or you can suggest a better way to do it, put in the information, and then there's nothing else you can do. But all of this game bashing and stuff that I've been seeing in the forums, it's not that I avoid the forums because of it, but I do kind of steer clear of those particular threads because to me, I don't see the point of it. Yes, there are people that are unhappy with how things are going right now or how they feel they're going to go. And there are those that are on the other side of the fence, and then there's those like me that's just willing to wait it out and see. And to me, all that fear mongering and stuff does is just it doesn't do any good. So I would just as soon just wait it out and see how it goes. If it goes in a direction that I'm not happy with, then I'm quite comfortable in picking up and going somewhere else. I do play other games, so it's not like I don't have other things that I could get into. I'm just noticing the window's a little off. Probably because of how I had to do the centerpiece, but I don't know which way to move that to change it up. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to fuss about it, I guess. Okay, so we talked about that we wanted a sink area here, probably a double sink. The question is, how do we put this in and make it look like it's built into the countertop? I have tried many, yeah, that's one way to put it, less QQ and more Pew Pew. For me, it's just enjoy the game as it is, as best you can, while you can, go with the flow. That's how I approach it. Not for everybody, but that's how I do it. So anyway, so now I have to think about, well, how do I build an inset kind of sink? There is a sink item, bathroom sink. I think it's crafted, so it's not like I can buy one, I don't think. No. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try let's I can quit twirling this thing and try and twirl it right. And then I have to get the, I guess I could have, let's just copy this. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it flat against the wall there. Now, thankfully, I don't have to worry about the picture showing through because the wall's there, so it's going to be hiding it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double that up. And what I'm going to try and do is just build myself an inset sink area. You'll kind of get what I'm talking about here barely if I can get the sorted here. Just buy a few pieces so I can play around with this. Now, if you noticed, the countertop area doesn't go all the way to the floor. And what that means is either I'll have to either extend it, which means either I'll have overlapping area in the front or stuff sticking out the bottom. But what I think is, I don't know if you've seen those kind of countertops where you have like the face of like the drawers or cabinet doors, and then underneath it's like a little instep kind of thing. And I'm thinking that's how we'll go here. Because one thing I'll be lucky about is I don't think you'll be able to fix the camera in a way that you'll see that there's actually a gap between this wall and the one that's inset. But we'll sort that out here momentarily. First, I'm concentrating on the sink area here. Now, because these are wide, I won't be able to turn it this way. It'll be too broad. So what I'll have to do is turn it right side up. And then rotate it this way. Now, more than likely, this will mean that there will be some sticking out at the bottom. And I already have an idea that I will probably cover up the bottom floor with some extra flooring. Not only to give it some depth to hide some of these things that I might decide to sink down into the floor, but also to make the floor a little more uniform, because while I don't mind the different floorings appearing up inside the interior on the bottom, I don't necessarily like that. I want it to be all one solid piece. But I'll tackle that at a later time. So what I'm looking at here is just the walls here, trying to get some thickness going. And since this is double, I feel like this needs to be double too, just to kind of match it, matchy. And then of course I need to do that on the other side, so that means I have to rotate this because you don't want the picture showing. And then we just push it over. Now you can see there's a lot of blinky going on, so I'm gonna have to try that again. Just this front one is blinking on its own. I'll have to sort that out later. I really despise the blinky. I wish that didn't happen. I don't know if it's mostly my graphic settings that causes it to show up a lot, or if it's just the general overlap that makes it wig out, but I really can't stand the blinky. That's just constant. Look at that. It will not stop. There we go. I just had to pull it out like a little bit or something. Anyway, so now we have that one, then we need to put in another one. Now what I'm looking at is how you can see the side pieces from the bottom. And what I was talking about earlier was, have any more of the posters? No. Gonna have a lot of posters in here. Lay a few more out and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Because that's how my kitchen is. I have white kind of cabinet things and the bottom lip is inset, but it's also white. So it's like, I don't know how to describe it. But again, what it's going to mean is there's going to be a considerable amount sticking out at the bottom. Possibly. And again, I could just make it where there's like legs sticking out. Maybe do it like that. Just to give it a little extra division, so that when you like maybe put in door handles or something, it'll look like it's an actual cabinet area. That kind of thing. Now I'm going to take a look and just see how much is sticking out the bottom there. Not too bad. A little bit. So whatever flooring I double up on here underneath will hopefully cover up, you know, any kind of extras like that. Yeah, Samson, that's one of the big pains of that flickering effect. Like I said, it's like the two pieces can't occupy the same space, kind of. It just doesn't agree. And it's less of an issue when it's like a small item. At least it seemed to be that way for me. But the bigger the item, the harder it is to hide, because when you offset it even by 0.01, it's still pretty noticeable. Especially if you're going for really beam-lined edges and stuff. Now you'll see flickering and stuff like the shadows. That I'm pretty sure is just my graphics settings, not the game's. It's all scratchy and weird. That's just my settings. If I set them any higher than they are, there would be like a lot of lag in the house, even with me being here by myself. So I've tested it, trying out different things, and it just was off. Okay, so I'm going to copy one of the top ones, paste, and I'm going to drag it. And then I'm going to resize it just a bit. Oh, let's see. And then I'm going to drop it. And then I have to decide, okay, how deep is my sink? Really deep, sort of deep, not too deep. Ah, did you see that? You can see the picture. So what I'll have to do is I'm going to leave that there. What I got to do for this one here is I do have to flip it so that the image is not showing. And that's just a matter of quickly rotating it around and repositioning it so that you don't have that picture showing. So there you go. Now you have a little inset sink. I could split that off into one, the two separate little sinks, leave it as one. I'll probably just leave it as one. I like it being centered there. And I don't have to do any major adjustments. But if you wanted to get particular, you could move this over so that there's one sink here and one sink here, and use one for whatever you want. There'll be water on one side, rinse water on the other, however you feel like doing it. Then for like the drains, or the drain, the red moon vent, a good little handy. Comes in super huge, but thankfully the way we can manipulate things down now, you can knock that much more manageable size. Maybe. Let's try that again. Might have made it too small. And I said, no, I'm not going to be that small. I refuse. Something like so. Just put it much in the middle as I can eyeball it in. This doesn't even look like it's perfectly centered with the window, does it? I may make adjustments on that just to get it to sit in like I want, but for now I think it's fine. If I adjust anything, it'd probably be the window. Just trying to see if it's kind of centered both ways, and it looks okay. So there, now you have a drain for your sink. Easy peasy. Let's see if this faucet. Now, a lot of people usually use like the garden hose. It has a nice little faucet on it with a little turn handle. Of course, the nozzle itself is pointing straight out. You'd have to add an extra little item to kind of make it go down, or you could turn it on its side and have it kind of down. I've seen folks use some of the, I think it's some of the tanks that come with little nozzles. Yeah, little nozzles that you can use for shower heads, the tub controls, things like that. There's another one that's kind of got like a little kind of faucet head, sort of. I've seen people use, I'm trying to think of what it is. Well, I've used hammers for some, Tua cups for the handles. That's a very favorite one. A lot of these, though, the problem with them is they'll have a lot of excess things that I don't want sticking out, especially the garden hose that like popping out. Some have actually used the sink, but hid the sink part and just had the faucet part showing. Go with that option. Simply because of how I built this up, I'll probably have to rig up something on my own. More than likely to be like the hammer. That's the quickest, easiest item that you can get a hold of that can work. And I'll just show you what I'm talking about there. There's a number of ways you can do it. You can either use the handle as the base of the sink part, and like so, and just shrink it down and then lift it up. Shrink it down more, kind of like so. Have it like that, and just pretend that the water comes out the end. Or you can flip it the other way, like so, kind of tilt it a bit. Oops, I'm 60 there, buddy. Something like that, I don't know. I think I've messed up the angles there, but you get the idea. Let me straighten that back up. I think I've really worked it a bit. And usually I turn it so that the pointy end is the lower part. You don't have to, just it's what I do. And then I tilt it a bit. It might actually look better with the flat side down. Rotate that again. Ooh, too far. Ooh. Wow, this is. There we go. And then tilt it. Something like that. Just a simple little nozzle type thing, whatever, just to indicate that that's where the sink is. And then, like I said, you could use Chua cups for the handles. You could use, I've seen the tops of like the cork bits of the some of the wine bottles, the files, the medium and short bottles, those work. Again, like the nozzle controls of the tanks, those make really good handle kind of thing. We'll go with the Chua cups, because I know those are easy to come by, and I happen to have a few on hand, so that's handy. And basically, you just flip them over. Bring them up a bit, size them down, however what you want. And then slide them in to where you need them. I'm gonna have to go a little smaller because I don't want them showing through the wall of the sink there. It looks like I'll have to rotate it so that one part isn't showing. Can't tell if it's like really close to the window there. It looks like it is. Okay, so maybe 0.4. They're going to be really tiny little faucet things. And that's just because the cup itself is pretty fluted. Got a wide mouth. If you went with a different bottle that has a more narrow shape all around, then you wouldn't have that trouble. So something like that. So there we have a little sink. And then just a matter of copying this all the way around the bottom so that you have that little extra lip kind of cover up the gap there. You don't have to, you could just put legs, legs, or just extend this down if you want. But again, I kind of want to give the illusion that there's drawers or cabinet space that you know, I may add handles every other one or something to indicate that those are openable. I'm just going to space these out and then I'll correct the position later. So now I'm thinking, okay, besides a sink, what does the kitchen just have to have? So what we'll do is I have some empty paper here. Okay, so you have a sink, probably want a microwave, an oven, a fridge, like some sugar, flour, salt canisters, probably some cabinets, like above, kind of cabinetry up here, like dishes, towels, that kind of thing, plates, glasses. Not that, with this being just kind of a single person, it might just be full of canned spam for all I know, but some kind of cabinets up top. I don't know, maybe I could fashion some kind of a blender or something like that. That's when you're setting up a room thing. You just kind of want to go, okay, what all do I need in it? We want a little dining table with 2 chairs. What else could be in here? Maybe I'll have a cooking island where you can do some fancy sushi dishes or something. But whenever you're planning your room, you're trying to decide what to fill it with. Just jot down quick ideas about some of the things you want in it. And that goes for any kind of room. If it's say, for example, Samson's working on a moon base, and say he's built the facility so that there's no actual access to the exterior, sort of. But that's the idea. You have your secure, oxygenated facility is protected from the inhospitable exterior of your uninhabitable planet, asteroid, whatever it happens to be, kind of thing. So as soon as you walk into the facility, what would you expect at that kind of place? Maybe some kind of decontamination zone where you get sprayed down and check for bugs, or because you're coming into this nice, clean, recycled air facility, so they don't want any cooties, or maybe you go through a security check and you have to have everything scanned and probed and all kinds of stuff, and then maybe you go through I don't know, some kind of check-in where you have to register, show your ID, and maybe there's a waiting room and that kind of thing, So whatever kind of theme you're going for, and you kind of get your layout, what kind of rooms you want, then it comes down to decorating the room. And the room, if you know the purpose of the room, it becomes a little easier, sort of, to kind of decide what kind of things you want to put into it. So, like if you have a decontamination room for, like, you're getting ready to go into a clean zone, like say it's a laboratory or some other kind of facility that you have to be completely debugged or whatever, then you're gonna, you're thinking, okay, there's gonna be scanners and lots of machinery, I think Samson's got like a conveyor belt kind of thing where I don't know, maybe it's just for the luggage, like a scanner for any belongings that they have, but maybe it's like a full person one where they go through it and you pretend like you're getting x-rayed or something, like in Total Recall or something. A security desk, maybe they have little video cams of all the places. And if you have a station that has a lot of security cams, then you would expect in the facility to have a lot of little cameras. You know, maybe you have there's a couple of items, decor items that have like moving eyeballs or little camera thingies or guns that's like constantly zoning. Have some of those up in the corners. If you're gonna give a room a purpose and you have it like a security cam or something, then make that follow through with the rest. I'm kind of getting off target here, but just yapping. But I'm just trying to say, don't just throw things in without having some kind of reason behind it. I mean, for some of the details, if you want to just make it look lived in, yeah, throw a book here or a box there. But when it comes to the kind of the guts of the room, kind of plan it out a bit, as that will help you in deciding what goes where, how big you need it, how much of it you need. If you're going to have a waiting room, how many chairs do you need, or do you want couches, or do you want a table with some books for the people that are sitting on the couch to read? You need good lighting. What kind of lighting? Is everything going to be cold and clean and spick and span, or is it kind of messy with like trash on the floor? That kind of thing. So I need some more posters. Always poster. It's like I'll get stuck on a particular item and then I just like use like 50 billion of it to try and finish what I'm doing. But I absolutely love these posters. I like it. Whatever. So again, I'm just kind of quickly placing them, and then I'll straighten them up a little better here shortly. Oops, just copied it again, the wrong thing. Cooker and hood would be difficult, I think. Yeah, I think it just depends on what you use to build with it. Like I said, the trick of having a custom-built home is you can't hide things into the walls and into the floors as easily as you would a pre-built home. So you have to kind of be choosy about what you use to build with. Because even with something as simple as this, I'm still have the issue of things sticking out the bottom, which I hope to remedy once I layer in a full flooring on the bottom. I don't know yet what I'm going to use for that. Maybe a different kind of floor altogether. Maybe I think it's dragon floor. It looks like stones. Maybe I'll have that on the bottom. Maybe I won't put anything on the bottom and just put a bunch of rocks underneath and cover it up. I don't know yet. Right now I'm just concentrating on the interior to kind of get as much as I can out of it, and then see what kind of decor count I have left before I plan. Whether that's the best choice, I don't know. Let's see, I need about 2 more, I think. For some people, I may do things kind of backwards here and there. This is just the way I work, kind of loosey-goosey. Speaking of loosey-goosey, I was talking a day or two ago about my husband picking names for characters. He uses a lot of the goofy things that I say, and he has a character named Loosey-Goosey. The full name is Loosey-Goosey Snappy Crap, because I think I said that phrase way back when, for some reason, I don't know what, and he just thought it was hilarious. So he used that as a character name. But I have a tendency to kind of talk like a minion. I kind of spout nonsensical gobbledygook stuff coming out of my mouth, and especially when I'm startled or scared about something, I'll go and just rattle off a bunch of stuff. And he says he wishes he had a recorder around because he'd record a bunch of it and use it for some of his character stuff. But Loosey Goosey Snappy Crap, that's a character name. Wow, somewhere. Okay, so again, there's probably things that I will tweak or change up, but kind of liking how it's going so far. Okay, so probably oven or stove top would be the next things to tackle. As far as where to put them, that would be a good question. Where to put them? Let's see. I'm kind of thinking too about where I want the cabinets. I think one pocket of cabinet here and one over here would be nice. The question is how to build the cabinets. And I'd also probably want to use a different material than I have for the cabinet down here at the countertop. Now, I could change my mind about the front of the countertop. Maybe I want them different looking than the actual countertop. You've seen where you have like maybe wood, and then on the top is like some kind of like granite, smooth, I don't know, ceramic kind of topping. For instance, if I decided to use, say, the staircase landing, for example. Only problem with that is when you use two different materials, especially those of differing sizes, you might run into the issue where the width doesn't match up, so that means that the lines don't either. So part of the reason why I tend to stick with the same materials when it's like something like this is because I know that this will be the same length as that, and so on. Yes, I can kind of try and get the size to be the same, such as doing it like this. Just trying to give some examples here of what I'm talking about. Let's see. 1.4 maybe. Too big. Pretty close. So say I use that and use it as the front face. First thing I notice is that it will probably be pretty sticking out quite a bit at the bottom, and I wouldn't have the lip to separate the front face of a possible drawer or cabinet from the base like I have it already. That's one way to go about it, but I think it doesn't have the same look as I was intending for here. I could, however, use it as the cabinets. Then you got to think, okay, size. Is that too big? Is this too small? Maybe it's maybe you use 4 panels and make a double, like a double shelf, and then you'd get fancy and like have one of them open and show some of the contents inside. First though, I need to fix these before I forget. 636. If I don't do this now, I'm gonna completely forget, and I'm gonna leave it all messed up and not good. 420. B12.